Welcome back. Let's reading a bit. It's Tuesday today. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm getting my Danish pension. Tomorrow, Wednesday is end of a long month, and I have a new long month in 2 days. I will be low on money because I have to saving some money on my bank account. So I not get homeless. I need to have saving enough to 1 month's rent apartment. So let's read this Draken. But I need a minute to get to my bed. I need a minute. I just got up 2 hours ago. I'm still very sleepy. So I need a little time to do myself ready and get to my bed. But that's a role the Danish Air Force. The Danish Air Force have this Swedish Saab 35 Draken. And then they get this F-16. The Danish Air Force got this F-16 in the 80s. They're still used today, year 2025. So the Danish Air Force still use this old F-16.
Saab 35 Draken. The Saab 35 Draken, IPA, square DRKN, the kite, ambiguous with the dragon, is a Swedish fighter interceptor developed and manufactured by Svenska Aeroplan Aktiebolaget, Saab, between 1955 and 1974. Development of the Saab 35 Draken started in 1948 as the Swedish Air Force future replacement for the then also in development Saab 29-ton-a-day fighter and Saab 32B Lansen all-weather fighter. It featured an innovative but unproven double delta wing, leading to the creation of a subscale test aircraft, the Saab 210. Which was produced and flown to test this previously unexplored aerodynamic feature. The full-scale production version entered service with frontline squadrons of the Swedish Air Force on the 8th of March, 1960. It was produced in several variants and types, most commonly as a fighter interceptor. The Saab 35 Draken is known for, among other things, its many firsts within aviation. It was the first Western European-built combat aircraft with true supersonic capability to enter service and the first fully supersonic aircraft to be deployed in Western Europe. Design-wise it was one of, if not the first, combat aircraft designed with double delta wings, being drawn up by early 1950. The unconventional wing design also had the side effect of making it the first known aircraft to be capable of and perform the Cobra maneuver. It was also one of the first Western European-built aircraft to exceed Mach 2 in level flight, reaching it on the 14th of January, 1960. The Draken functioned as an effective supersonic fighter aircraft of the Cold War period, although it was never used in conflict. Even though the type was designed and intended as an interceptor, it was considered to be a very capable dogfighter for the era. In Swedish service, it underwent several upgrades, the ultimate of these being the J-35J model. By the mid-1980s, the SAF's Drakens had largely been replaced by the more advanced JA-37 Viggen fighter, while the introduction of the more capable Saab JAS-39 Gripen fighter was expected in service within a decade, although delayed. As a consequence of cutbacks and high maintenance costs, the SAF opted to retire the Draken during December 1999. The type was also exported to the air forces of Austria, Denmark and Finland. Danish aircraft have been exported, post-service, to the United States where they have seen use as training aircraft for test pilots. Naming, edit. The Swedish word Draken has a double meaning, translating either as the dragon or the kite. It is said that the name was derived from the appearance of the prototype, like a paper kite, when seen from above. The number 35 comes from the aircraft's Swedish Air Force designation, Flight Plan 35, FPL 35, meaning Aeroplane 35. Depending on the given role, the aircraft received a prefix to indicate its type, the most common being J-35 to indicate jacked flight plan, pursuit aircraft, the Swedish term for fighter aircraft. Development, edit. As jet fighter technology developed after World War II, Sweden foresaw a need for a supersonic fighter that could intercept bombers at high altitude as well as engage other fighters. During September 1949, the Swedish Air Force, via the Swedish Defence Materiel Administration, released its recently formulated requirement for a cutting-edge interceptor aircraft that was envisioned to be capable of attacking hostile bomber aircraft in the transonic speed range. The original requirement specified a top speed of Mach 1.4 to 1.5, but this was revised upwards in 1956 to Mach 1.7 to 1.8 and then again in 1959 to Mach 2.0. It had to be flown by a single pilot, yet be capable of conducting combat operations under all weather conditions, night or day, while operating from relatively austere airstrips, carrying all equipment needed to neutralize modern jet bombers. Although other interceptors like the U.S. Air Force's F-104 Starfighter were being conceived at the time, this fighter would have to undertake a role unique to Sweden, the ability to operate from reinforced public roads, which were to be used as part of wartime air bases. The aircraft also needed to be refueled and rearmed in no more than 10 minutes by conscripts with minimal training. Saab commenced work on producing an aircraft to meet these requirements. Preliminary studies found that the majority of critical issues posed by these requirements could be met with a delta wing configuration. However, to obtain an aerodynamically desirable location, the forward fuselage needed to be extended, making the aircraft too heavy. The optimum solution was thought to be a double delta wing. However, this wing configuration was new and untested, so Saab's design staff, headed by aircraft engineer Eric Bratt, and a team of more than 500 technicians, constructed a small test aircraft to explore the behavior of the new wing. A subscale test aircraft constructed in Sweden, the Saab 210, formerly Flight Plan 210, Aircraft 210, unofficially nicknamed Lil Draken, the Little Dragon, comprised a test of the double delta wing, and performed its first flight on the 21st of January, 1952. Results produced by these test flights led to an order for 3 full-size Draken prototypes. On the 25th of October, 1955, the first of these prototypes, not fitted with an afterburner, conducted its maiden flight. According to aircraft publication Flight International, an atypically intensive flight test program was conducted to define and test the type's exceptional speed, range, and complicated systems. The second prototype, equipped with an afterburner, unintentionally broke the sound barrier during its first flight while climbing. During 1956, the first operational version of the Draken, designated as the J-35O, was ordered into quantity production and the first production aircraft flew for the first time on the 15th of February, 1958. Mach 2 was reached on the 14th of January, 1960 with test pilot Erik Dahlstrom at the controls of the J-35B prototype. The engine used was a slightly modified British-made Rolls-Royce Avon Mk.48, Swedish designation RM6B, engine number 3459. Design, edit. The Saab 35 Draken is a fighter aircraft, equipped with a distinctive double delta wing. According to Flight International, it is difficult to differentiate between the fuselage and the wing. The design anticipates what would later be known as a blended wing body. The fuselage has a circular section, and the inboard portion of the wing is a large chord surface which extended almost to the engine intakes. It was possible to dispense with a tailplane, resulting in a clean, simple overall design. The leading edge of the inner wing was swept back 80 degrees for high-speed performance, and the outer wing 60 degrees for good performance at low speeds. The cockpit of the Draken featured mostly Swedish-sourced instrumentation. Successive models introduced various improvements to the cockpit fittings, such as the revised canopy and new avionics. For export customers, the Draken was outfitted with a Vanti-built Air Pass 2 fire control radar, which was effective for acquiring various air-to-air or air-to-surface targets, along with a ground mapping mode working in conjunction with the aircraft's navigation systems. Typically, 2 separate radio units would be installed, along with a high-speed data link and 2 navigation systems. As there is no natural feedback placed upon the stick, artificial forces were generated by a Q-field system. The Draken was also fitted with a 3-axis autopilot. The fuselage of the Draken consisted of 2 sections, front and rear, joined by bolts. The forward section, which was integral with the intake ducts and neighboring wing structure, accommodates the fire control radar, cockpit, nose undercarriage, integral fuel tanks and various systems. The rear portion, which was manufactured as a single piece alongside the rest of the inner wing, contained the engine and afterburner, bag-type fuel tanks, armament, main landing gear, and other systems. The flight control surfaces consisted of a rudder, along with inboard and outboard 11s, the outer sections being fitted with mass balance weights. Each surface was operated by a tandem hydraulic jack, which was connected to separate circuits. As a weight-saving measure, the hydraulic systems would operate at a line pressure of 210 kp/centimeter, 20.6 MPa, which would be greater than double the pressure used in the earlier Saab 29-tonner. Propulsion was provided by a single Svenska flight motor RM6B/C turbojet engine, a license-built model of the Rolls-Royce Avon 200/300 engine, also known as Avon Mk.48 and Mk.60. A ram turbine, positioned under the aircraft's nose, provided emergency power, while the engine also featured a built-in emergency starter unit. To reduce its landing distance when required, the Draken was equipped with a drop parachute. The principal armament was carried externally. Up to 4 AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles were carried on hard points beneath the wings and fuselage. Alternative payloads include a variety of bombs and rockets, along with provisions for the installation of a pair of 30mm cannons, located within each of the inboard wing panels. In place of the cannons, additional fuel tanks could be fitted in the same space. For aerial reconnaissance missions, a variety of camera pods could be carried underneath the fuselage. Instability, edit. Due to a lack of knowledge regarding the then historically unproven design of the J-35's tailless double delta wing configuration, the plane encountered problems at the start of its service life. The unstable design of the double delta wing made it difficult to land early versions of the J-35 as they had to be manually stabilized during landing. The design also allowed the plane to enter a superstall, which can be described as an uncontrollable stall affecting aircraft with specific wing configurations when experiencing high alpha numbers. Due to this, J-35 pilots were trained to prevent super stalls, and this training led to the development of the Cobra maneuver. The Cobra is performed by entering into a controlled superstall state, gaining high alpha and then quickly negating the angle of attack to counter the stall. This forces the airframe to act as an air brake for a few seconds, which rapidly reduces the speed. The Swedish Air Force is the first air force to have discovered and developed the Cobra maneuver. The Swedish named it Kut Parad, short parry, after the fencing maneuver of the same name, in English known as beat parry. Initially it was used during training to teach pilots how to counter super stalls, however it also saw secondary use as a combat maneuver which would cause a pursuing enemy fighter overshoot, allowing the pilot to riposte. Operational history, edit. 2 J-35A2 Drakens flying over Sweden in the early 1960s. At the end of 1959, deliveries of the J-35A Draken commenced to the SAF, the first unit to receive the type being Fighter Wing F-13, stationed at Nyköping. During March 1960, the Drakens of Unit F-13 participated in a 3-day-long exercise, flying by night and day while operating under a state of highest readiness throughout. According to Flight International, the introduction to service of the J-35A was very smooth, and that the scramble and turnaround times had been found to be most satisfactory. By the end of 1960, multiple wings had been equipped with the Draken and had attained operational status. Although the J-35 Draken was designed as a high-altitude interceptor and not as a dogfighter, it proved to have a good quick-turn capability and high speed at all altitudes, making it a very capable fighter plane. The early models were intended purely to perform the air defense mission. However, to assist pilots in converting to the type, Saab produced a small number of twin-seat J-35C trainer aircraft, the first of which having been completed during December 1959. During 1959, an improved air defense fighter model, designated as the J-35B, was developed, which featured improved performance and equipment over the J-35O. Among other things, it was powered by an improved engine fitted with an enlarged afterburner, a redesigned rear fuselage, a new Saab-built S-7 collision course gun sight and fire control radar, and integration with Sweden's Stral 60 air defense control network. A total of 651 Drakens were manufactured by Saab. Sweden's fleet of Drakens comprised a total of 6 different versions, while 2 additional models of the Draken were offered to prospective export customers. The final model of the Draken to be produced was the J-35F, which was also the final version to remain in Swedish service, then modified to J-35J standard. Its export customers included Denmark and Finland. In May 1985, the Austrian Air Force purchased 24 J-35DS, which had been refurbished by Saab. The J-35 Draken design underwent several upgrades. The last of these was the J-35J version, which was produced during the late 1980s. By this point, the Draken had been almost entirely replaced by the Saab 37 Viggen in SAF service. The Draken J-35J was effectively a service life extension program, which had been initiated as a result of the impending delivery of the new Saab JAS-39 Gripen having suffered several delays. The extension program was intended to keep the Draken flying into the 2000s but, as a consequence of budgetary cutbacks and high maintenance costs being incurred with the type, the Draken was phased out of Swedish service in December 1999, although the aircraft has since remained operational in limited numbers within both military and civilian roles. All Drakens functioned as interceptors with limited air-to-ground capability. The sole exception to this rule was the Danish Drakens, which functioned as strike aircraft and were capable of carrying a mixture of AGM-12 bullpup air-to-ground missiles, electronic countermeasures, and increased internal and external fuel storage. The Danish Drakens were the heaviest of the series to have flown. During 1993, the last of the Danish J-35 fleet were retired. During the 1990s, Finland updated its 35XS fleet with new avionics, cockpit displays, navigational forward/attack systems, and electronic countermeasures. These were finally retired in 2000 to be replaced by F/A-18 Hornets. Austria was the last country to have the Draken in active military service. The first refurbished Draken J350S was handed over to the Austrian Air Force by 1987. These Drakens were initially armed solely with two 30mm air-to-air cannons, which have proved to be inadequate. This was due to a missile ban which stemmed from the Austrian State Treaty of 1955. By 1991, with the start of the Yugoslavian civil war to its neighbor down south, there were numerous airplace violations along the southern border caused by the Yugoslavian Federal Army. After the fall of the Iron Curtain, Austria declared the relevant article to be obsolete. Thus in 1993, a contract for the purchase of AIM-9 Sidewinder was signed with the Swedish Air Force. They were followed from 1998 by a number of improved AIM-9 P5S from Laurel Corporation in 2005. These Drakens were retired, having been replaced by former Swiss Air Force F-5 Tiger IIS, while waiting for new Eurofighter Typhoons to take their place in the long term. In the United States, the National Test Pilot School, NTPS, operated 6 Drakens that were formerly in Danish service. They were retired in 2009. List of prototypes and test aircraft, edit. Several prototypes and test aircraft of the Saab 35 have existed over the years. Some have been prototypes for new variants while others have been test platforms for other aircraft. FPL 210 Lil Draken. Main article, Saab 210. Flight Plan 210, FPL 210, Aircraft 210, also known as Lil Draken, Little Kite, was a scaled-down proof-of-concept experimental aircraft to evaluate the double delta wing configuration. Though not strictly a Draken variant, it is included here as the first in a series of prototypes. Existed in 2 stages. 1 FPL 210 air intakes on the nose. 2 FPL 210B air intakes moved to the sides of the fuselage. FPL 35-1 Draken. FPL 35-1, also known as Draken, Big Kite, was the first original full-scale prototype. It featured an original Rolls-Royce Avon Mk.21 RM50 engine with no afterburner and was unarmed. FPL 35-2. FPL 35-2 was the second full-scale prototype. It was similar to the 35-1 and was unarmed. It was used for testing ejection seats among other things. Tests with a tailhook were also performed at some point. FPL 35-3. FPL 35-3 was the third prototype and was the first prototype with cannon armament. FPL 35-4. FPL 35-4 was the series prototype for the Saab 35-0. FPL 35-5. FPL 35-5 was the first aircraft built to Saab 35 series specifications. It featured an original Rolls-Royce Avon Mk.48 RM6B engine and had the same afterburner and tail as the J35-1 Adam Short variant. Later it was modified to Saab 35D standard and acted as the Saab 35H demonstrator during the Swiss trials. FPL 35-6. FPL 35-6 was the series prototype for the Saab 35D. It later also served as the prototype for the Saab 35F. FPL 35-7. FPL 35-7 was a test aircraft for the Saab 35F series. It was outfitted with special recording equipment. FPL 35-8. FPL 35-8 was a test aircraft for the Saab 35F series but with the earlier non-bird-proof cabin. It was used for RB-28 missile tests and later for testing different radios. FPL 35-9. FPL 35-9 was a test aircraft for the Saab 35F series but with the earlier non-bird-proof cabin. It was used for, among other things, ground tests. FPL 35-10. FPL 35-10 was a test aircraft based on the Saab 35B series but it was originally a J-35A series aircraft. The aircraft was modified with the outer wings of the Saab 37 Viggen strike fighter later in its service life for trials with the RB-05, then RB-305, air-to-ground missile. FPL 35-11. FPL 35-11 was a test aircraft based on the Saab 35B series. It was used for several Saab 35F trials featuring RB-27 and RB-28 missile mock-ups. Some electronics for the Saab 35D version were also tested. Its final purpose was to trial electronic countermeasures for the Saab 37 Viggen strike fighter. FPL 35-12. FPL 35-12 was similar to the 35-11 and was used to trial different components for the Saab 35D and Saab 35F series. FPL 35-13. FPL 35-13 was a test aircraft for the Saab 35D series. From 1967 it was used for testing several types of countermeasures for the Saab 37 Viggen strike fighter. Swedish Air Force variants, edit. Saab 35A, Adam, edit. Fighter version designated J35A, Adam. 90 aircraft, 35001-35090, including test aircraft, delivered between March 1960 and December 1961. 29 J-35A were ordered on the 24th of August 1956, with a further 60 J-35A being ordered on the 7th of February 1958. The initial 40 aircraft delivered in 1960 were delivered without a radar and gun sight. This was corrected in 1961 and 65 Adam were equipped with radar and gun sight in the end. 25 Adam were converted to Saab 35C unarmed two-seat trainers between April 1961 to August 1962. The Saab 35A was fitted with a license-produced Rolls-Royce Avon Mk.48 Avon 200 series engine, Swedish designation RM6BS, from SFA, today Volvo Aero, fitted with a Swedish-developed afterburner. Two types of afterburners came to be used on the J35A, resulting in two primary variants. One J35A1, J35A1, /J35A cut, short, initial version with a short afterburner, EBK65, and short tail. Nicknamed Adam Cut, Adam Short. 65 built. 2 J35A2, J35A2, /J35A long, later version with lengthened tail section to house a new afterburner, EBK66, for additional thrust. Nicknamed Adam Lang, Adam Long. The longer tail cone unexpectedly reduced drag, but did force the installation of a retractable tail wheel. 25 built. The radar on the J-35s was a French Kirano RA 423 radar from Thomson CSF, Swedish designation PS02/0, as the originally planned Swedish radar, PS03, from LME hadn't been developed in time. The gunsight was an advanced gyroscope gunsight developed by Saab for both the Saab 32B and Saab 35A called S6.